kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah! 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 Kurt Angle! Yeah! Why, Triple H? You son of a tell me why! And Tony Khan! This is also on you!
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it!
What is up? What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Sunday, May 4th, 2024. It is Star Wars Day. Did anybody go and watch the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith? You know, the one where Anakin Skywalker turns into Darth Vader? I didn't get the chance to, unfortunately. And that sucks because I really wanted to go see Revenge of the Sith in theaters for the first time. But without any further ado, let's get into the wrestling talk, man. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Of course, the number one thing that we are going to be talking about on this show are the releases that took place this past Friday. Of course, a lot of shockers on that list and a lot of fake outrage on social media. Yeah, I said it. Fake outrage by a lot of fans on social media. But it is what it is. And we are going to be talking about it right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Right here, not only on the WrestleHavoc channel on YouTube, but also on the WNN channel, the Worldwide News Network channel on YouTube, as well as the Worldwide News Network Facebook page on Facebook. So we're going to be talking about that. Some other stories that we're going to be talking about, of course, we're going to be talking about Backlash. Backlash is this weekend. We're also going to be talking about some changes that are going to be taking place in TNA. A lot of changes that are going to be taking place. Apparently, there's no longer going to be blading involved in TNA. So we're going to be talking about that. $40,000 is the amount that you're going to have to pay for when it comes to paying for front row seats for SummerSlam this coming August at MetLife Stadium. Jeez, I really don't want to pay those $40,000. We're also going to be talking about the WWE draft. It's set to take place sometime this year. Ricochet, Mr. Ricochet, Ricochet says WWE ruined my love for wrestling. We're going to be talking about that as well. AEW Double or Nothing's in a couple of weeks. AEW also announces a couple of 4-hour blocks. Yes, 4-hour blocks of programming in the next couple of weeks and also in the month of June. WWE abandons the trademark for Edge. Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff announces Real American Freestyle. All this and much more right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And without any further ado, let's get into our top story. Of course, our top story, we can't have a WrestleHavoc podcast without talking about this big story. We're going to be talking about the WWE releases that took place this past Friday, because this tends to be the norm every year after WrestleMania. Every year after WrestleMania, WWE goes through a series of budget cuts. Who are they going to keep? Who are they going to let go? And a lot of the talent, primarily the talent from the main roster, a lot of this talent is quite a shocker to a lot of people, especially from the main roster. There's only one shocking talent that got released from the NXT side of things, that being Cora Jade. But on the main roster, we got a lot of talent that got cut. And on one hand, you kind of knew that they were, not really being utilized, and at some point they were eventually going to be let go by the company. But this is the norm when it comes to, after WrestleMania. After WrestleMania season is over, WWE always tends to go on a series of budget cuts, and they figure out what talent they want to keep and what talent they want to let go. But without any further ado, these right here on these four wrestlers that you see, these four photos that you see, these are just four of a lot of the other talent that got released. A bunch of talent got released. And I'm going to go through the list of names that got cut from the WWE. Number one, we got Shayna Baszler. Then we got Dakota Kai, Braun Strowman, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance, former women's tag team champions. Gigi Dolan, Eddie Thrope. Now I'm heading into the NXT pool. Javier Bernal, Oro Mensa, Wolfgang, Mark and Joe Coffey, Cora Jade. That is actually quite a shocker. Riley Osborne and Jakara Jackson. So those are all the names that got released this past Friday, a couple hours before SmackDown not off the air, but on the air. Usually when they announce these releases, one of the guys from the dirt sheets, that being maybe the Sean Ross Sapps of the world, go one by one saying this individual got released and this individual got released. So yeah, man, a lot of this talent, man. Primarily, we're going to be talking about the talent from the main roster. We're probably going to be talking about Cora Jade as well. But, man, you got Shayna Baszler, Dakota Kai, Braun Strowman, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance. Those are coming from the main roster. And I'm going to be honest, man. Out of all of the talent that got released, the three wrestlers that got released that came off the most shocking, to me at least, was Shayna Baszler, Dakota Kai, and Braun Strowman. Now, we're going to first talk about Dakota Kai because out of all of the people that got released, I feel like Dakota Kai's story is kind of the saddest. And I mean that, you know, and I love Dakota Kai. I think she's fantastic. But think about this. The last time we saw Dakota Kai, last seen in a WWE match, was on the March 17th, 2025 episode of Raw. And then she got released over a month later. Why does Dakota Kai come off shocking to me? Now, I knew she was not really being utilized that much on TV, but Dakota Kai to me comes off as a shocker considering the fact that Dakota Kai was one of the people that got originally released and then were contemplating on going to AEW or maybe even Stardom. But then, of course, once the whole Vince McMahon thing came out, and Triple H was anointed the head of creative back in the summer of 2022, one of the first calls that Triple H made to bring back was Dakota Kai. And we all remember that night, SummerSlam 2022, I believe it was in Nashville, where, of course, not only Dakota Kai made a return, but also Io Sky. And then, of course, they formed Damage Control, and the rest is history. But Dakota Kai, to me, she's a great in-ring talent. She's fantastic on the microphone, in my opinion, at least. She's a very good promo. But after Damage Control really just disbanded, you know, they really didn't do anything with Dakota Kai. The only thing I can primarily remember them doing with Dakota Kai fairly recently was her being in the finals for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and that was against Lyra Valkyria, and she lost that match. Ever since then, Dakota Kai really hasn't been doing anything as of late when it comes to what WWE really wanted her to do. And that was kind of a sign that, you know, eventually they were going to cut her. Another one is Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler, to me, I don't want to say is kind of a shocker, considering I'm a big fan of Shayna Baszler, but at the same time, ever since she got called up to the main roster all the way back in, let's say, I think it was 2019 that she got called up to the main roster. I think it was either 2019 or 2020, one of the two. I think it was 2020. Shayna Baszler hasn't really been doing anything, and this was back during the Vince McMahon days. Of course, the last thing of importance in my eyes that Shayna Baszler was really doing that resembled a lot of importance was her run in NXT back in, 2018, 2019. Her run as the NXT Women's Champion was tremendous. Her run as the NXT Women's Champion was tremendous, and she was very dominant. But then once she got called up to the main roster, of course, as a lot of talent had to deal with, she had to deal with Vince McMahon. And I guarantee you, once Vince McMahon took a first look at Shayna Baszler, you knew for a fact Shayna Baszler creatively was done for. That's just my opinion. But, they had Shayna Baszler, get chased out by a doll. You guys remember that? Back when they were doing the whole supernatural crap with Alexa Bliss. They were not really doing anything with Shayna Baszler. And then they formed the group with Sonya Deville and Zoe Stark. That went nowhere as expected. Shayna Baszler, to me, getting released was not kind of a shocker, but to me, it was kind of expected as well. Now, one release that was very shocking was Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman, of course, was one of those people that actually got released as well. He got released, I believe, back in, I think it was 2021. And what happened was while he was away, of course, he was with EC3 forming CYN. If you guys don't remember, Control Your Narrative, an embarrassment of a promotion. But Braun Strowman was one of the people that Triple H actually brought back once he took the creative book as well. Braun Strowman, man, I'm not going to lie, man, his second run at least in the WWE so far was kind of great. I'm not going to lie. One of the best things that WWE did primarily with Braun Strowman was, number one, he was a very good babyface. But number two, he's very good at putting guys over. And the two guys that come to mind that he put over tremendously well, at least during the past year, was number one, Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed definitely broke out after he was feuding with Braun Strowman. And more importantly, and this is fairly recently, Jacob Fatu. And now Jacob Fatu is the current U.S. champion. But Braun Strowman being let go is kind of shocking as well. But I believe the main reason as to why Braun Strowman got let go from the company was because of his salary. And I believe that was the same reason that WWE gave years prior when they originally let go of Braun Strowman due to budget cuts. His salary was way too high, and WWE did not think that, he deserved the amount of money that he was getting paid. And primarily, I believe he was getting paid around like $1 million a year, something like that. But I believe as of right now, from the stories that I'm reading, that is that is one of the main reasons as to why Braun Strowman got released. Caden Carter and Katana Chance, of course, former tag team champions. Caden Carter, Katana Chance, and I said this last week because I was ranting and raving about how WWE just does not know how to utilize the women's tag team championships. Caden Carter and Katana Chance are the definition of a legitimately real women's tag team. They are a real women's tag team. If you look at the WWE women's division, you see them not utilizing the WWE women's tag team championships properly. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Caden Carter, not Caden Carter and Katana Chance, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the tag teams that are involved in the tag team division are primarily makeshift tag teams. What do I mean by a makeshift tag team? A makeshift tag team is a tag team that is just, you have one wrestler and one wrestler, no story whatsoever, just pair together and boom, you got yourself a tag team. To me, that is not a tag team. I feel like a real tag team 100% was Caden Carter and Katana Chance, and it really does suck that both women got released. And then after that, you have a bunch of NXT releases take place. Of course, Cora Jade, she was showcased highly well on NXT, and I don't know where she's going to go here from now, but it really does suck for Cora Jade. Now, what are my whole thoughts on this whole situation about all these releases? Number one, I'm going to sit here and say this right here and right now before anybody takes me out of context. Number one, this whole situation with the WWE budget cuts or releases is not new. This happens every single year immediately after WrestleMania. This always happened. We've seen this last year. I believe one of the talents that got released last year were, what was that guy's name? He was feuding with LA Knight and Ted, was involving the $1 Million Championship. I completely forgot his name. But, yeah, man, one of those guys got released. A lot of people got released last year. A lot of people got released the year before. But nonetheless, man, when it comes to these releases, the number one thing that I'm going to be saying right here and right now is that it sucks for people to lose their jobs. It really does. It's a terrible thing. But at the same time, I've always said this. You getting released from the WWE, number one, shows that WWE just does not see value in you. It doesn't. They don't see value at all, and it clearly shows by your booking. Dakota Kai's booking has been relatively nothing. Shayna Baszler hasn't been doing anything on television throughout the past couple months. Braun Strowman, after feuding with Jacob Fatu, was kind of just there. And Caden Carter and Katana Chance, I can't remember a single thing that they've been doing throughout the past couple months either. a lot of this talent, a lot of the talent that WWE is cutting are talents that WWE just does not have any plans for and just does not know what to do with them. Like, they don't know what to do with them. And to me, that's just normal business. WWE is going to push some people. WWE is not going to push some people. That's just how the business works. And not only that, WWE making these releases also is WWE freeing up money to sign more free agents in the future, because they just came off signing Ricky Saints a couple of months ago. From what it looks like, the rumor mill is going crazy, and it looks like Mariah May, who's the former AEW Women's Champion, who had a tremendous match with Toni Storm at AEW's Revolution in LA a couple of months ago. From what it looks like, Mariah May is set to be WWE bound after that match. A lot of the stories are heavily implying that Mariah May is on her way to the WWE. What if WWE makes Mariah May an offer? It's for them to free up space to sign free agents. That's just how it is. But a lot of fans on social media are saying, oh my God, WWE is bad for this, blah, blah, blah. They should have utilized this talent better. They should have done this with this guy. They should have done that with that guy. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. It sucks that these guys got released. But at the same time, you saying that WWE is bad for this, clearly you have no basis on what you're talking about. Because WWE doing this, I mean, they've been doing this forever. You know, they've been a publicly traded company since 1999. WWE always does cuts. They always do cuts after WrestleMania. Always. This is not expected. Not only that, when it comes to the talent that got released, I always said this, you getting released is a blessing in disguise, because this is not a situation where WWE is the only game in town anymore. There are so many options that a lot of these wrestlers can go to. Dakota Kai can go to an AEW. Dakota Kai can go to a Stardom in Japan. Dakota Kai can go to a TNA, which, by the way, is partnered with WWE, but still, TNA is its own entity. She can go to a TNA. Braun Strowman can go to primarily a TNA or an AEW or a New Japan. Shayna Baszler can go to a Stardom. You get what I'm saying? So, to me, them releasing this talent, number one, did not come to a shocker to me. But at the same time, them getting released was probably the best thing for their careers, because now they are able to branch out and go somewhere else and prove that they can be somebody. And they are able to, you know, take their talents elsewhere and showcase what they are able to do in the squared circle. Look at guys like Toni Storm. Toni Storm, as of right now, is by far, besides maybe, you know, a Julia or a Stephanie McIntyre, without a doubt, NXT has the best women's division in the world. I've always said this. NXT, and I don't even watch NXT and I know this, NXT has the best women's division in the world. Maybe a close second could be either the TNA, well, maybe not the TNA women's division, considering now they got Tessa Blanchard, but maybe maybe a distant or a close number two could be the AEW women's division, and then maybe a number three can be the TNA women's division. But as of right now, NXT has the best women's division in the world. Look at guys like Julia. Look at Stephanie Vaquer. The way WWE signed Stephanie Vaquer was crazy. They took one look at Stephanie Vaquer, and by the way, I believe she wrestled for CMLL, but she also did wrestle at AEW's Forbidden Door show last year. She wrestled Mercedes in a fantastic match. WWE took one look at Stephanie Vaquer. They took one look. They watched that match that she had with Mercedes at Forbidden Door last year, and WWE immediately snatched her up. They snatched her up and signed her to a deal. Now, but look at talent like Toni Storm. Going back to Toni Storm. Look at Toni Storm. She was one of the victims of, I believe, budget cuts or releases, whatever you want to call it. Toni Storm came into AEW and not immediately, but she immediately got pushed to the moon and became she became the women's champion. But then over a year later, she completely reinvented herself. And as of right now, Toni Storm not only is the AEW women's champion, but as of right now, Toni Storm is one of the best, if not the best female wrestler in the world right now because of her character work. And she has done tremendously for herself. She has done a fantastic job at reinventing herself. A fantastic job at reinventing herself. Look at guys like Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland, a destined main eventer, was on NXT. He was Isaiah Swerve Scott. You guys remember that? He was Isaiah Swerve Scott. He was with BFAB. He was with, who was it? AJ Francis, Top Dollar, whatever you want to call him. I still call him Top Dollar, but AJ Francis. Remember Hit Row? You remember that group? They got called up to the main roster. WWE didn't do anything with them and then got cut. They ended up getting cut. Swerve Strickland going to AEW was probably the best decision for Swerve Strickland's career. The best decision for Swerve Strickland's career. Now look at Swerve Strickland right now. The guy's a main eventer. The guy recently main evented an AEW pay-per-view. Granted, he lost, but he's a former AEW world champion. Who's to say some of these guys, maybe a Dakota Kai, could jump ship to an AEW or go to a TNA and get pushed to the moon and become a world champion? Who knows? This is just out of the top of my head. But I'm going to sit here and say this right here and right now. Even though I did say there are a lot of options out there, the one thing I will say is that Tony Khan should not I'm telling you right now, Tony Khan should not be looking at these releases. He should not be looking at these releases and he shouldn't sign all of these guys all at once. Because that is exactly what happened before. Why do you think AEW kind of suffered? Why do you think AEW suffered creative bankruptcy throughout the past couple of years and kind of still are? It's because they signed too much talent. And when you sign too much talent, you're going to enter yourself into problems because you're going to use one guy over the other and you're not going to have space for that other guy that you're not using. And that's what AEW dealt with. And to an extent, that is kind of what WWE is dealing with right now. That's what's happening. But when it comes to these releases, man, for people that are saying that WWE is quote unquote bad for this, you got to keep in mind that, number one, this is not a Triple H call. In my eyes, at least, this is not a Triple H call. In my opinion, this is definitely a TKO call. TKO are the ones that are making these budget cuts. Let's be honest with ourselves. TKO, you may like them. A lot of people hate them. I sure as hell don't like them, considering they outprice wrestling fans like crazy. If you look at the prices for WrestleMania, they are ridiculous. But I went on a rant about that last week on the podcast. But this is definitely a TKO call. Do I see WWE releasing more talent in the future? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do see WWE releasing talent in the future. But when it comes to these releases, you got to be honest, man. What did you expect? What exactly did you expect? If WWE is not utilizing you, they're going to let you go. That's just the norm. They are eventually going to let you go. So last time we saw Dakota Kai was on the March 17th, 2025 episode of Raw. The last time we saw Shayna Baszler was on the April 11th, 2025 episode of Raw. Braun Strowman, his last appearance was on the April 18th, 2025 episode of SmackDown, which I believe that was the go-home SmackDown before WrestleMania. And Kaden Carter and Katana Chance were last seen on WWE programming on April 11th, 2025 during a SmackDown taping. So, they were last shown on TV fairly recently. But again, WWE just did not know what to do with them. WWE has their own plans. So WWE is going to eventually, once those next waves of budget cuts start to take place, they're eventually going to start cutting you. Braun Strowman and Dakota Kai are the two talents that really came to a shocker. And it really does suck for Dakota Kai because Dakota Kai, again, was one of the wrestlers that Triple H brought back immediately once he took full power of WWE Creative back in the summer of 2022 after Vince McMahon stepped down. She was one of the first people that Triple H called to come back. And it sucks for Dakota Kai, but at the same time, I think this is a blessing in disguise for Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai can literally go anywhere. She can go to an AEW. She can go to a Stardom. She can go to a TNA. Dude, the sky's the limit for a lot of these talents. At the end of the day, all you have to do is just bet on yourself. Matt Cardona said it best. Matt Cardona is literally the best example of a talent that got released due to budget cuts, then showed up on the independent circuit and immediately reinvented himself. This guy went from being Zack Ryder to the Deathmatch King. Couple months later, this guy shows up in GCW in Atlantic City, beats Nick Gage for the title, and causes a riot in Atlantic City. You know what I'm saying? So the sky's the limit for a lot of these talents. Their careers are not over. A lot of fans are overreacting. There are other options out there. The fact that people are saying, "Oh, WWE is bad for this," well, I hate to break it to you, they're a business. They are a business. They're going to cut losses. That's what they do. The people at the top at TKO, all they care about is their money. And of course, you know that may sound shady, and it does sound shady. It really does. But that's their job. Their job is to make the most money possible for the company. And unfortunately, it comes at the expense of a lot of these talents. It does. It sucks, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Another example of reinventing yourself is Ricochet. And we're going to be talking about Ricochet later on this show. But Ricochet is another example of a wrestler reinventing yourself. Now, Ricochet was not the victim of any of these releases that we saw. He was not the victim of release. He was not the victim of a release. Ricochet just decided to not renew his contract with the WWE and leave. He decided to leave once his contract was up. He went straight to AEW. At first, I was one of those people that were like, oh my God, Ricochet is just going to be lost in the shuffle like a lot of these other guys in AEW. And for the first couple of months, it was kind of getting a little scary. But then Ricochet started to reinvent himself. But I don't want to talk all about Ricochet right now because we're going to be talking about Ricochet later on the show. But those are my thoughts on these releases, man. At the end of the day, this talent they have so many different options outside of the WWE. They got AEW, they got TNA, they got New Japan, they got Stardom. Like literally, they can go anywhere. They can wrestle the independents for God's sakes. They can literally go and make great dollar at the independents. They can literally make a living 100% off the independents. It's been proven before, and it can be proven again. So this talent 100% is going to be fine. Not to mention, a lot of the talent from the main roster that got released have 90-day non-compete clauses. They have 90-day no-compete clauses. Talent that come from NXT that got released have 30-day no-compete clauses. So they're still going to get paid relatively by WWE for like the next 90 days. But after that, they're on their own, and they're probably going to go somewhere else. Moving on to our next story. But before we get into our next story, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, the WrestleHavoc podcast will be taking place every Sunday at 8 o'clock, not only on the WrestleHavoc channel, but also on the WNN YouTube channel and the WNN Facebook page. But moving on, in our next story, we're going to be talking about TNA. TNA is in the news. They actually had their Rebellion pay-per-view. I did not watch the TNA Rebellion pay-per-view. I'm going to be real honest with you guys. I'm not that big of a TNA watcher. I only watch TNA when it comes to their big events. So when it comes to like a Bound for Glory or a Slammiversary, I will buy those pay-per-views and I'll watch those pay-per-view offerings from TNA. But we got major changes from TNA. Of course, TNA, in my eyes, is the number 3 promotion in the United States. They're a distant number 3 behind AEW and WWE. If you really think about it, it's WWE, AEW, and TNA. So it's kind of the big 3 in the United States. But PW Insider is reporting that there are more changes coming to TNA, and I'm actually reading this from the slamwrestling.net website. In a meeting yesterday, staff and talent were informed that quote-unquote excessive blood and blading will not be permissible by the promotion. They were also told that accidents and injuries do happen and they would be treated differently. PW Insider stated that PWInsider.com is told, in order to protect the health of the talents as well as keeping current and potential advertisers and partners in mind. The promotion also named 2 new vice presidents, Eric Tompkins, former director of TV production, and Ross Foreman, head of media relations. So this is actually very interesting, man. TNA is going to do away with excessive blood and blading. Now, on one hand, if you are a non-wrestling fan watching this show, I mean, you'd see that as a good thing. And trust me, I actually see this as a good thing. I think too much blading. If you guys don't know, the way wrestlers bleed, basically what happens is they have a little, they have like a little razor. And what happens is whenever they want to get color, as that's the terminology, if you want to bleed in a match, it's called getting color in a match. Basically what they do is without like anybody looking, and that's the beauty of production, you don't see it. The wrestler tends to blade and, cut their forehead, and that's when they start bleeding. But when it comes to, blading or bleeding, too much of anything is not a good thing. WWE actually does it right. WWE actually started to bring back blood into their matches. That's the beauty of the current era that we live in. Triple H, has done a really good job of balancing or, knowing onto whether or not use blood or not use blood. The best usage of blood that we have seen in a match was the Hell in a Cell match that we saw between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre this past October inside the Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood. That was a fantastic usage of blood. But AEW is the polar opposite. AEW, what they do is that for a lot of the matches that you see, and it can be a random match that you have absolutely no, and I mean no interest in, AEW will literally have these wrestlers go out there and blade like crazy and start bleeding like crazy. And keep in mind, it'd be for a match that you had absolutely no interest in, and they'd go all out. And I'm like, what am I watching? So you have two different parallels. WWE actually knows how to utilize blood at the right time, and AEW utilizes blood every single show. Now, what are the differences? Using blood, in my opinion, when it's the right time, is the best time to utilize blood. What do I mean by that? Using blood in a match, to me, will only feel important if it's once every couple of matches. If it's once every couple of months. If you are a promotion that does not use blood at all, and then uses blood in one certain match, a lot of fans are going to remember that. If you use blood in every single match that you deliver, it's not going to be special anymore. And that's unfortunately what's wrong with AEW, is that they give you too much of something and the specialness just comes off. Once every couple of months, whenever you have blood in a match, that's when it's special. But if you have blood in every single match, and the best example that we saw this was Revolution a couple months ago. I think it was like 3 matches that we saw that had blood in it, or 2 or 3. And correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the matches that we saw that involved blood happened back to back. We had the Toni Storm and Mariah May match, which was a freaking bloodbath. And we had the cage match between Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Those matches were fantastic. But again, both of those matches were bloodbaths that happened on the same card. It happened on the same night. So think about this. If you saw that, you'd probably be like, damn, why are they utilizing too much blood on this? You know what I'm saying? WWE utilizes blood the right way. Now, when it comes to TNA, them banning blood as a whole is a little bit of a shocker to me. But at the same time, even though like the fan in me wants to hate this, at the same time, I don't really hate this decision at all. I really don't hate this decision, considering, TNA is a promotion that does a lot of wild things. Trust me. Have you watched the Ultimate X match that took place at the Rebellion show last weekend? Leon Slater hit a 450 Swanton. It was crazy, and all the guys that were on the floor damn near missed him. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to TNA banning blading, you may hate it, but at the same time, I'm not really that upset about this whole move, considering if you are a promotion and your best interest is in the talent, you're probably going to do something like this. You know what I'm saying? You're probably going to do something like this, and them banning blading as a whole, to me, is not a bad move on TNA's end. Especially if they want to appeal to more advertisers and potential partners. And that is exactly what it stated in that press release. They wanted to appeal to more advertisers and more partners. I'm not going to sit here speculating, but I've always said this, TNA in 2025 really wants to grow. And we've seen that with a lot of the actions that TNA has been pulling. TNA is going to be going to the UBS Arena in Long Island. They have roughly around 4,000, I believe, what was it, like 2,000 seats sold in a 4,000 capacity. That's like the amount of seats that they have for their show. To me, TNA is trying to make a lot of moves, and them partnering with WWE is one move. Them, moving to larger venues is another big move. They probably want to go on a national television outlet, which I would understand as well. But them banning blading is probably the right move. They want to do those things. So I have no problem with TNA banning blood from their matches. It's a little weird considering TNA was always known to have crazy matches. I mean, I've been a TNA fan for almost my entirety of loving wrestling. I have a bunch of TNA DVDs at home. I'm a big TNA fan. I don't watch the current product, but I was a big TNA fan back in the day. But them banning blood, I have absolutely no problem with, because if you are looking at the health of the talent, then what's wrong about that? You know what I'm saying? All right, moving on. In our next story, we are going to be talking about SummerSlam. SummerSlam is going to be taking place at MetLife Stadium. Yes, it's going to be taking place in New Jersey. Finally, WWE has an event, a television event in New Jersey. And it's going to be the first ever 2-night SummerSlam. It's going to be Saturday, August 2nd, and Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. Now, a lot of people were afraid about the pricing for SummerSlam. I was one of them. I was very worried about the pricing for SummerSlam. Now, according to Andrew Baydala, who's a very reputable source to get all things wrestling from a media perspective or from a tickets perspective, Andrew Baydala on Twitter confirmed with On Location and WWE, and he got this confirmed, the Elite Plus package prices for the front row floor centers, which is the TV side, for WWE's SummerSlam 2025 at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, hear this, are $40,000 per ticket. In parentheses, confirmed, they are sold out of this very limited quantity. They include premium front row seating, an in-ring photo op at SummerSlam, private transportation to events, an elite welcome event, private section at all-inclusive pre-show hospitality with superstar appearances by Kevin Nash, and much more. And access to the post-show press conference, access, and a desk photo op. I'm going to be honest, man. You already know my thoughts on these ticket prices that WWE is putting out. WWE, or I don't even want to say WWE, man. This is a TKO thing. TKO loves outpricing their fans. They don't just do this with the WWE, by the way. They do this with the UFC. I think it's for any UFC fan that is watching this, I think everybody knows that the UFC tickets are ridiculously expensive. Ever since TKO, or I should say WWE and UFC merged to create TKO, I think everybody knew that one of the top strategies that WWE or TKO was going to be doing in terms of WWE, now that they own the company, was to bring up these prices because, again, the product is hot. And if a product is hot, of course you are going to bring up the prices. But I'm going to be honest, man. Looking at these ticket prices, even though the $40,000 for the Elite Plus package, now a lot of people got Andrew Baydala out of context. They thought Andrew Baydala was stating that front row seats cost $40,000. Front row seats do not cost $40,000. The Elite Plus package. Some people do not know how to read. I'm being serious. People do not know how to read. The Elite Plus package costs $40,000. I'm actually on Ticketmaster right now, and I'm actually going to look at the price of a front row seat. And from what it looks like, these front row seats, I mean, they're going to be ranging around the $6,000 range. Now, I'm looking at available seats that are a couple of sections behind the front row. I'm looking at one ticket, and this one ticket is roughly around $4,000. That's still a lot of freaking money. That is a lot of money, to say the least. But if you look at the cheaper seats, The cheaper seats go for, let's see, around $189. That is not bad at all. For a show like SummerSlam, I would understand. But I was afraid that we were going to be getting the cheap seats at like $500. Because if you looked at the price range for WrestleMania this year, considering that WrestleMania was in Las Vegas, the cheapest seats that you could possibly get for WrestleMania was like $400 to $500. Those are just for the cheapest seats that you could get at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Thank the Lord that us in New Jersey are blessed, and the cheapest seats are around the $180 range. That is not bad. So I feel like WWE is finally learning their lesson, and they're not outpricing their fans for SummerSlam. But $40,000, let's be real with this. $40,000 for the Elite Plus package. Keep in mind, that Elite Plus package is already sold out. Who in their right mind? I really want to know who these people are. Who in their right mind is spending $40,000? $40,000. Look, if you can afford it, all power to you. If you can afford it, all power to you. I'm being serious. If you can afford it, all power to you. But who's spending $40,000 to sit at the front row of SummerSlam, to have a photo op in the ring, and then to have access? Like, bro, to me, I'm sorry, I may be the richest man. I could be the richest man in the world. I could be like a billionaire. You are not going to see me spend $40,000 on that. On that package, I'm not going to spend $40,000. I am sorry. But besides that, WWE, you know, when it comes to the tickets for SummerSlam, like, I'm going to look at the cheapest seats right now for SummerSlam. Hold on. Let me go all the way up to the stadium. Dude, navigating Ticketmaster is ridiculous. And that is not including the fees, by the way. I've always said this. Ticketmaster is always also the problem, because Ticketmaster loves outpricing people when it comes to their fees. The fees on Ticketmaster are just a joke. They're just a joke. But like, the cheapest seats could be around like $189, $200. For a show like SummerSlam, that is not bad. 100% that is not bad. I was afraid that the cheap seats were going to be around $500, but that is not the case. So thank the Lord for that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on SummerSlam. Moving on to the WrestleHavoc podcast. Before we get into our next story, of course, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, the WrestleHavoc podcast will be taking place every Sunday night on not only the WrestleHavoc channel, but also on the WNN YouTube channel and the WNN Facebook page. Let's move on and talk about Backlash. Backlash is going to be taking place this Sunday. And I'm going to be honest, man, Backlash is actually looking pretty good. Of course, Backlash is going to be taking place in St. Louis. And when they first announced Backlash to be in St. Louis, you kind of knew what match they were going to be booking, considering John Cena won his 17th world title via controversial fashion, via the help of the one and only Travis Scott, which caused a lot of outrage on social media. But, of course, we're going to be getting John Cena versus Randy Orton at Backlash this coming weekend. And I'm going to be honest, man, I'm actually really excited for the match, but I'm one of those people that genuinely believes that the match itself is just not going to be that great. That's just my opinion. The match itself is just not going to be the best, but from a nostalgia standpoint, it's gonna be great. But I'm gonna go through all the matches that we're gonna be seeing at the Backlash card. So of course we're gonna be seeing John Cena versus Randy Orton for the undisputed title. We got the Women's Intercontinental Championship match with Lyra Valkyria defending her title against Becky Lynch. We got Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Yes, Gunther versus Pat McAfee. That is going to take place at the Backlash card. Now, a lot of people were complaining. About Gunther facing off against Pat McAfee. He went from being the World Heavyweight Champion. Think about this. He went from being the World Heavyweight Champion to then wrestling Pat McAfee on the next pay-per-view. I have no problem with Gunther facing off against Pat McAfee. I'm going to be honest. I for one, genuinely believes that the Pat McAfee hate that is online is 100% fake. I don't understand the Pat McAfee hatred. Pat McAfee is fantastic. He's very entertaining to listen to. His chemistry with Michael Cole is fantastic. And whenever he gets a chance to wrestle in the ring, because yes, he's wrestled in the ring before. He's not an actual wrestler. He's per se a celebrity that wrestles in the ring. I don't want to compare him to guys like Bad Bunny, but like Pat McAfee is a celebrity amongst the sports world. And he also does commentary for WWE. Pat McAfee can work. Pat McAfee can work. So Pat McAfee facing off against Gunther, it to me is a great move. Not only that, I thought the build for the match was fantastic too. Like Gunther went straight for the attack on Michael Cole. He went straight to attack Michael Cole, and then all of a sudden Pat McAfee went in for the save. And then Pat McAfee, gets beat up by Gunther. Come on. It was great stuff. And also the promo that Pat McAfee cut this past Monday on Raw. Come on, like you got to love that, right? You got to love that. But moving on, man. So after Gunther versus Pat McAfee, we got Jacob Fatu defending his U.S. title against Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, and Damian Priest. We got the World Heavyweight title match with Jey Uso taking on Logan Paul. We got the Women's Championship match as Tiffany Stratton, after defeating Charlotte Flair in probably one of the worst matches that you'll see at WrestleMania 41, defending her title against Nia Jax in a match nobody is going to care about. I'm going to be honest, I don't care about Tiffany Stratton versus Nia Jax. I'm a big fan of Tiffany Stratton, but having her face off against Nia Jax to me is very questionable. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Nia Jax. And we got Io Sky and Rhea Ripley taking on Julia and Roxanne Perez from NXT. Of course, we had Io Sky taking on Stephanie Vaquer on the Raw after WrestleMania, which was fantastic, by the way. Bro, if you guys haven't seen Stephanie Vaquer wrestle, Stephanie Vaquer, in my opinion, is by far the best women's wrestler in the world. Like, if I were to rank the best female wrestlers, at least the top 3 best female wrestlers right now, be Stephanie Vaquer, Toni Storm, and Julia. Maybe I can have Mercedes as an honorable mention, but, Mercedes' booking, in my opinion, has been kind of questionable. I'm not really that big of a fan of what Mercedes Moné has been doing in AEW, but Mercedes Moné is up on that echelon. But if I were to rank the top 3 best female wrestlers in the world right now, it'd be Stephanie Vaquer, Toni Storm, and Julia. Those are the top 3 best women's wrestlers in the world, in my opinion. But that is the Backlash card so far. Overall, I think Backlash is going to be a pretty good show. I know a lot of people are kind of panning on the card. They're not really liking the whole John Cena heel turn. And look, I'm understanding of that because again, after the whole Rock scenario of basically, John Cena turning heel and joining The Rock, we got no real explanation. And then The Rock goes on the Pat McAfee show and is like, oh yeah, I was just there as a favor for Mario Emanuel. Like, get out of here. A lot of that kind of was fumbled, but I'm going to still give it a chance. Once we head towards the summer, if John Cena is still having a lackluster run as champion, then I'll come on this show and I'll be like, yeah, this whole John Cena heel turn, even though it's his last year as a full-time wrestler, it's been a failure. I'm not going to say that quite yet, considering, again, it's John Cena. It's his last year. Him being a heel was something that we've all wanted, but the way that we've been getting his heel run so far hasn't really been the best, considering everything that we've seen since Elimination Chamber has been rendered absolutely useless, if you really think about it. All right, moving on. When it comes to our topics on the WrestleHavoc podcast, the WWE Draft. Yes, we're going to be talking about the WWE Draft. Wait, the WWE Draft? The WWE Draft is happening? Yes, it is actually happening. We actually do not know the date as to when the draft is actually happening. But, yeah, the draft is actually going to be taking place, and we do not know when. So according to WrestlingNews.co, I'm actually reading this from the Wrestle Talk website. An update on the status of the 2025 WWE Draft following WrestleMania 41 and a number of main roster call-ups. So normally, if you guys don't know, the WWE Draft tends to take place after WrestleMania every year. And if you guys don't know, Raw and SmackDown are quote-unquote separate shows. So they have their own talent and they have their own rosters. And every year, whenever they do the draft, they always flip-flop guys from one show to the other. That is the whole notion of the draft. With WrestleMania 41 now being behind us, a number of NXT stars seemingly on their way up to the main roster. That includes Fraxian, which, by the way, already made their main roster debut, Roxanne Perez, and Julia. WWE has yet to mention the WWE draft this year, which has led to speculation that the company may not be holding a draft this year. In an update on the status of the 2025 draft from WrestleVotes, the company is still planning a draft, but with coming a few months in the calendar year rather than packed. It isn't known when it may happen. WrestleVotes stated, and I quote, "The calendar gets a little tricky here. You're going to get Backlash next week, which is going to be May 10th. You're going to get Saturday night's main event, which is 2 weeks after that. And then you're going to get Money in the Bank, which is going to be in Los Angeles at the Intuit Dome 2 weeks after that. And 3 weeks after that, you got a Saudi Arabia show. And then a week after that, you got the rumored Evolution show. And then you calm down a bit before SummerSlam. So there's a lot going on. I don't know exactly when and where they can pencil this draft in, but I would expect this one to happen. What are my thoughts on this? If WWE is smart, I'd abolish the draft. Yeah, I said it. I'd abolish it. Kill it. Murder it. Kill it. Kill the draft. The draft makes no sense in this day and age. Yeah, I know we still have separate rosters, but to me, a draft, I mean, especially when wrestling is fixed, I mean, like, why do you do a draft? It makes no sense to do a draft. It's a dumb concept. No, scratch that. It is not a dumb concept. I take that back. It is not a dumb concept. It's just a really good concept that is done wrong. The draft is pointless. What is the point of having a draft? Seriously. What is the point of having a draft? There's no reason to having a draft in this day and age. Because you have talent that is exclusive to SmackDown and you have talent that is exclusive to Raw that constantly flip back and forth between the shows. You got Raw talent appearing on SmackDown. You got SmackDown talent appearing on Raw. And some weeks you got NXT talent appearing on Raw, and then you got NXT talent appearing on SmackDown. What is the point? Why are you going to do a draft if you cannot commit to a roster split? I'm being serious. Why are you going to do a draft if you cannot commit to the idea of the roster split? What was the whole purpose? Think about this. What was the whole purpose of the WWE brand split when they first launched it back in 2002? If you guys don't know why WWE has this formula now, well, this is actually the second time WWE's doing it. The first time that they did it was back in 2002. So the first roster split, I believe, happened from 2002 all the way to I think it was 2012 or 2013. So it lasted for 10, 11 years, the first roster split. The whole purpose of the whole roster split is you have a bloated roster with a bunch of talent, and you're going to use some of this talent, but a lot of this talent are not being utilized. So what you're going to do is you're going to split the roster in half. So one half of the roster is going to be on Raw, the other half of the roster is going to be on SmackDown, and each show is going to have their own storylines, their own wrestlers. You get my drift. And the first few years of that roster split from 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, they were separate shows, especially from 03 to 06. They were separate shows. And you can add 07 over there and maybe even 08. But again, if you have talent from Raw that are going to SmackDown every week, if you have talent from SmackDown that are going to Raw every week, what is the point? Because then you're going to cause confusion with your own audience. You're going to cause confusion with your own audience. There's no bones about it. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea who's on what show. I'm being honest. I have no idea who's on what show. And if you have an idea about who's on what show, God bless you. But I have no idea who's on what show because WWE has taught me that the brand split does not matter. It's not a case of me being a viewer just that does not know anything. No. This is a case of WWE telling me that the brand split does not matter because you got talent from Raw going to SmackDown and vice versa. So what's the point of having a draft? The WWE draft should die a death. If you can't commit to the brand split, why do it? Plus, you got all these events, as WrestleVote stated. You got Backlash happening next weekend. You got you got Money in the Bank. You got all these shows happening. You got SummerSlam. You got Saturday night's main event happening after Backlash. What is the point of the draft? There's no point of the draft whatsoever. None. Nada. The draft makes no sense. It really just does not make no sense. And if WWE does a draft, it's probably going to be for a ratings grab. They want to get high ratings for the week. And then we're back to normal. Granted, even though ratings matter, but nowadays since we live in the streaming age, ratings don't matter as much in terms of cable, but you never know. You can appease anybody. You can appease the executive, whatever. But the draft is irrelevant. The WWE draft should not happen. It should not happen at all, and it should die a death. Those are my thoughts on the WWE draft. Moving on, we're going to be talking about AEW. Yes, AEW is in the news. And AEW has, in a lot of fans' eyes, has been on a roll recently when it comes to their shows. AEW, of course, is going to come out with Beach Break. And as announced by AEW, and I'm actually reading this from the WrestleView website, during Wednesday night's Dynamite, it was announced that the May 14th Beach Break special on TBS and Max will be 4 hours. This episode will take place from the Now Arena in the Hoffman Estates in Illinois, aka Chicago, and then would air in the beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's basically going to be a 4-hour block. AEW has announced that Jon Moxley will be defending the AEW World Championship against Samoa Joe on the show. This show is actually going to be a 4-hour block. Yeah, I said it. This show is going to be a 4-hour block. And that is not the first 4-hour block that we're going to be getting as well. We're going to be getting a couple 4-hour blocks. So on Wednesday, June 11th, we're going to be getting the Summer Blockbuster. And it's going to be taking place in Portland, Oregon. And it's basically going to be a combined show with Dynamite and Collision. It's going to be a 4-hour show. 4 hours. Now think about this. I only watch Dynamite. I don't really watch Collision anymore, considering there's just nothing really important happening on Collision. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've only watched highlights of Collision, but 4 hours of AEW programming to me is a little bit overkill. I don't think this was an AEW call. I think this was a situation in which there was some sort of sporting event happening on either TBS or TNT that AEW had to move one of their shows. So in terms of moving one of their shows, like primarily a Collision on TNT, they're probably going to move it to a Wednesday and they're going to make it a 4-hour block. We're going to get numerous 4-hour blocks. We're going to be getting Beach Break, which is taking place, I believe, May 15th. And then we're going to be getting the Summer Blockbuster. Plus, we're going to be getting Fyter Fest, I believe the week after or the week before. Correct me if I'm wrong. What are my thoughts on this? This is crazy. 4 hours of AEW. And we're going to be getting we're going to be getting 2 4-hour blocks back to back in back-to-back weeks. If that is not overkill, I have no idea what is. That's just my opinion. But again, to me, it's just a little bit too much. Too much wrestling on a Wednesday night. And that's what AEW does. They give you too much of something special. So to actually be more specific, I'm actually reading this from the WrestleZone website. Get ready for 2 very long AEW television shows later this summer. Last week, All Elite Wrestling announced that the upcoming Fyter Fest special on June 4th would be a 4-hour special on TBS, combining that week's episode of Collision and Dynamite. But that won't be the only one. The company announced last night during AEW Collision and afterwards on social media that the following week on June 11th that there will be another 4-hour special on TBS entitled The Summer Blockbuster. So it's going to be Fyter Fest, which is going to be a 4-hour block on one week. And then the next week, we're going to be getting the Summer Blockbuster event, which is also going to be a 4-hour block. Portland, AEW returns with a 4-hour live television special. And of course, tickets will go on sale in 3 waves. The premium seats on April 22nd, the pre-sale on April 24th, and tickets will officially go on sale on April 28th. Stay tuned to WrestleZone for more information on these new specials. Overall, man, again, it's insane. To me, it's ridiculous. but that's AEW for you. They love to give you too much of something special. And look, we're probably going to get, if you really want to maintain that audience on these 4-hour shows, dude, you got to stack this show with a bunch of stars, man. You got to stack this show with a bunch of big names. I mean, we're going to be getting the cage match between Jon Moxley and Samoa Joe. I mean, I'd save that match for, the main event. Seriously, I'd save that match for the main event. I'd save that match for the main event and be like, hey, if you guys want to watch Samoa Joe versus Jon Moxley, you stick around. You're going to watch it at the end of the show. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the 4-hour blocks for AEW. We got a couple other announcements in terms of AEW. AEW is set to run the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. Of course, I'm reading the press release from AEW. It was released on May 2nd, 2025. All Elite Wrestling announced today that the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania will host an exclusive multi-week residency of AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision, making the first time in history that AEW events has been held in this historic venue. These events will be in addition to the previously announced ROH Death Before Dishonor event on Friday, September 5th. The residency dates are as follows. Wednesday, August 27th will be AEW Dynamite. Saturday, August 30th will be AEW Collision. Wednesday, September 3rd will be AEW Dynamite. Friday, September 5th will be ROH Death Before Dishonor. Saturday, September 6th will be AEW Collision. Wednesday, September 10th will be AEW Dynamite. And Thursday, September 11th, will be a special taping of AEW Collision. And a quote by Tony Khan, "We are thrilled to bring AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision to the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia from August 27th to September 11th, said AEW President Tony Khan. The residency has been years in the making, highlighted by an overwhelming demand by both fans and media alike for this legendary venue to host AEW events. I look forward to returning to the 2300 Arena for the first time since I was 13 years old and bring our passionate fans in Philadelphia an incredible few weeks of AEW shows this summer." So AEW is headed to the 2300 Arena, of course, the former ECW Arena. And I'm going to be honest, man, I'm very tempted. I'm thinking about possibly going to Philadelphia this fall to go to these shows, man. I actually wanted to go to Philadelphia last year for WrestleMania, but a lot of stuff took place that I wasn't able to actually go, which sucked because I really wanted to go. But man, the 2300 Arena, that's a legendary venue. Of course, that was the ECW Arena, and it's basically a bingo hole. That's it. That's what it is. But it's now renovated. It's been renovated for a couple years now. But it's a very nice building nowadays. Back in the day, it was kind of a dump. But nowadays, I mean, it's a really nice building. Not only that, it's a very historical venue. Of course, AEW ran the Hammerstein Ballroom last winter for AEW Dynamite and Collision, and I believe they aired the final Rampage at the Hammerstein Ballroom as well. So them going to the 2300 Arena is also a big plus as well. I've actually been to the Hammerstein Ballroom this year for the GCW show. I didn't go for AEW, but I did go to the GCW show at the Hammerstein Ballroom. It was going to the Hammerstein Ballroom was a great experience, but the show itself was just kind of dog crap. But when it comes to AEW and the 2300 Arena, I think it's great for AEW. One of the things that I noticed is that even though a lot of people are panning on AEW for moving their shows from larger arenas to smaller arenas in 2025, I mean, let's be honest, the main reason as to why they're doing that is because their weekly tickets for their weekly shows have been atrocious throughout the past couple of years, primarily 2023 and 2024. You know, for the majority of 2024, if you watch Dynamite, you know what I'm talking about. The majority of the crowds are empty. The majority of the crowds were empty, half empty, I should say, and it was really quiet. AEW moving to smaller, intimate settings for Dynamite and Collision was one of the best strategies that AEW could have done in 2024, or I should say in 2025, considering we've been getting better shows, and also the crowds have been more energetic, and these crowds have been on fire for these smaller venue shows. So them going to the ECW Arena is a 100% plus in my opinion. Moving on to AEW. AEW All Out. Everybody is curious as to where AEW All Out will be taking place. Andrew Baydala on Twitter, while not 100% confirmed, he stated, there have been conversation about having AEW All Out on September 13th, 2025. Of course, traditionally, except for 1 year, that being COVID, that was 2020, AEW All Out has taken place in Chicago, Illinois. AEW could look to move the pay-per-view outside of the Chicago area, but nothing has been confirmed. What are my thoughts on this? One of the biggest problems that I had with AEW, and I'm going to be real, one of the biggest problems that I had with AEW was the fact that they always went to the same venue for their particular shows every year. So, for example, Double or Nothing every year was in Las Vegas. All Out was in Chicago every year. And they ran Wembley Stadium back to back. So they ran Wembley Stadium in 2023, and they ran Wembley Stadium last year. What is the problem with running the same venue every year? The biggest problem with that is that the idea of going to that particular market gets old and it's not special anymore. You going to a market for the first time is great and it's special. But if you go to the same market for the same event every single year, I'm going to be real with you, man. It gets tiresome. It gets tiresome. Chicago every year, nah. Las Vegas, don't even get me started. I complained about the crowd in Las Vegas for WrestleMania this year. That is not my first time complaining about a crowd in Las Vegas. Throughout the past 2 years, or I should say not even the past 2 years, the past 3 years, that being AEW, when they would hold Double or Nothing, which is their May pay-per-view in Las Vegas, I'm talking about 2022, 2023, 2024. One of the biggest problems with those shows, and those were shows that I was actually considering to be like the weaker shows of their particular years. So, for example, Double or Nothing was like the weakest show for AEW in 2022 or 2023 or 2024. But the biggest problem that I had with those Double or Nothing shows was the fact that those shows, one of the biggest problems with those shows was the fact that the crowd was just so darn quiet. They were really quiet. And we saw that with WrestleMania. We saw that in the first night of WrestleMania. They were a little bit more energetic on night 2. I'll give them that. I'll give them credit. But night 1 was a little scary. So I'm actually happy that AEW is moving away from Las Vegas for Double or Nothing this year and going to Arizona. But when it comes to All Out, Chicago crowds tend to be great crowds. But again, AEW running Chicago every single year for All Out for one pay-per-view tends to get old. We've seen that happen constantly with WCW. How many years in a row WCW ran the old MCI Center in Washington, D.C. for Starrcade? How many times WCW ran the MGM Grand in Las Vegas for Halloween Havoc? You know what I'm saying? As the years go by, it tends to get old. It tends to get old. So AEW potentially moving venues for All Out is a great move on AEW's part. In my opinion, it is a great move on AEW's part. 100% great move. Now, the question is where are they going to take All Out? Now, All Out is taking place, we do not know when, but from what it looks like, and this is just a rumor at the moment, the rumor is that All Out will be taking place on September 13th. The last AEW show that's going to be taking place at the 2300 Arena is going to be on Thursday, September 11th, and that is a special Collision taping. Could this be a scenario in which they bring All Out to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Who knows? Maybe. Or Philadelphia is right, Pennsylvania is right by the state of New York and New Jersey. And I'm not saying this because I'm biased, by the way. I'm not saying this because I'm biased. Well, maybe I am, but too bad. I don't care. But what if, and this is just me theorizing off the top of my head. This is just me theorizing. What if we got All Out either take place in Madison Square Garden, hear me out, Barclays Center, more likely, or if AEW really wants to bet on themselves, Arthur Ashe Stadium. Because there's been talks about AEW potentially running Arthur Ashe Stadium for a pay-per-view event. AEW has ran Arthur Ashe Stadium before, but those were for special episodes of Dynamite. Those were for their Grand Slam shows. And I will say this, their ticket sales for Grand Slam over the years since 2021 have been dropping. Now, if you look at the numbers of AEW's ticket sales, the best place to look at the ticket numbers for all wrestling shows, not only WWE shows or AEW shows, also TNA shows, UFC shows as well, it's this Twitter account called WrestleTix. WrestleTix literally gives you the capacity, the tickets distributed for all of these different shows. WrestleTix is a great, reliable source. If you look at the numbers on WrestleTix, the biggest problem when it comes to AEW's attendance are not the pay-per-view events. It's the weekly TV. The weekly TV is the main issue. The weekly TV is the main issue where they are not selling very well. Now, granted, AEW is starting to pick back up a little bit more when it comes to their ticket sales. Are they selling out weekly TV? No. They're not selling out weekly television. But when it comes to their pay-per-view events, they sell relatively well. Look at the crowd at Revolution, at the Staples Center. I refuse to call it the Crypto.com Arena. I'll forever call it the Staples Center. At the Staples Center, drew a really good house. It drew a really good house. Look at Dynasty. Dynasty drew a really good house as well. Who's to say, AEW wants to bet on themselves and possibly put All Out at Arthur Ashe Stadium? There's any chance for AEW to book a pay-per-view at Arthur Ashe Stadium, in my opinion, the perfect pay-per-view for that is All Out. And also, the best thing about their pay-per-view schedule this year is that All In and All Out are no longer happening on back-to-back weeks. Because for the last 2 years, and I don't know why AEW thought this was a really good idea. If anything, I thought this was a dumb idea on AEW's part. A really dumb idea on AEW's part. Why in the world AEW ran All In at Wembley Stadium 1 week, and then the next week they ran All Out? That was a dumb move on AEW's part. I am so happy that they're not doing that this year. They actually moved All Out, or I should say All In. I got both of them confused. They moved All In, which is going to be taking place at Globe Life Field in Texas, from August to July. So for the last 2 years, All In was taking place in August. All In this year is going to be taking place in July. In August, we're going to be getting Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door is going to be taking place at the O2 Arena in London. So fans in the UK are going to get their good taste of AEW. It's not going to be at Wembley Stadium, but it's going to be at the O2 Arena. If you guys do not know, the O2 Arena is a relatively large arena. And from what it looks like, AEW Forbidden Door has reportedly hit a gate of over $1 million. I'm actually reading this from 411 Mania's website. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the advance gate for AEW Forbidden Door has already topped $1 million. The event happening in August, it is set for August 24th at the O2 Arena in London. So again, Forbidden Door is going to be in replacement for All In, because All In is now going to be taking place in July instead of August. So Forbidden Door was a pay-per-view that actually used to take place in June, but now it's not going to be the case. And from what it looks like, we're not going to be getting any pay-per-views in June, which is totally fine with me, because we got the summer blockbuster shows as well. We got those back-to-back 4-hour blocks in June. So we're kind of eating a little bit too much in June. But when it comes to AEW, them having All In and All Out, not having them in back-to-back weeks, to me is a breath of fresh air. Continuing on with the Forbidden Door story, though, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the show has had higher ticket sales than most AEW events, which is actually a shocker, which accounts for the gate. Either way, it will likely be the third largest gate in AEW history, both behind both shows at Wembley Stadium. And if this could still change if All in Texas could sell more tickets. Which, by the way, I looked at the seat capacity for All in Texas, and to me, the seat capacity is a joke. I mean, Globe Life Field, I looked it up. Globe Life Field holds roughly around 40,000 seats. And the capacity of the tickets that AEW is selling for their biggest show of the year is 18,000. And if you want to buy tickets, if you go on Ticketmaster right now and you look at the seating chart for the whole stadium at Globe Life Field, one corner of the stadium is tarped off and the other side of the stadium is tarped off. Can AEW just open those sections and see how they do? I don't know why they have the capacity at 18,000. This is your biggest show of the year, man. You got to ramp that up. That's just my opinion, though. And by the way, I believe they had like 14,000 tickets sold and we're like 70-something days away from the event. So AEW really needs to sell those tickets quickly. But nonetheless, when it comes to AEW, I mean, there's a lot of events taking place in AEW for that throughout the next couple months. We got Double or Nothing taking place. We got Beach Break happening, which is going to be a 4-hour block. We got the Summer Blockbuster. We got Fyter Fest. And then we got All In. And then we got Forbidden Door. And then we got All Out. So AEW fans, I'm an AEW fan myself. We're going to be eating, man. We are going to be eating. All right, we're going to be heading to our final topic right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. If you guys are joining me right here on the WrestleHavoc YouTube channel, WNN's YouTube or WNN's Facebook, I thank you guys so much. This is the second episode of the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Sunday, May 4th, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. 2025. I talked about this at the top of the show, but did you guys watch Revenge of the Sith? Yes, Revenge of the Sith, the third episode in the Star Wars saga, came out in 2005. It recently had its 20th anniversary. I, for one, actually missed it. I actually really wanted to go watch that movie in theaters. Come on. Seeing Anakin Skywalker burn and become Darth Vader, come on, I really wanted to see that in theaters. Dude, I never got a chance to watch the original prequels in theaters. Number one, I was not born in 1999 when The Phantom Menace came out. I was born in 2002. That was the same year that Attack of the Clones came out. And I was like 3 years old when Revenge of the Sith came out. And I'm 23 years old. I really wanted to watch Revenge of the Sith, but unfortunately I missed it. But if anybody watched Revenge of the Sith in theaters, man, tell me your experience. Seriously. But yeah, happy Star Wars Day, everybody. What is your favorite Star Wars movie? Again, my favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I know a lot of people's favorites are either A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back. Primarily The Empire Strikes Back. You know, I have a fondness for the prequel trilogy. I know a lot of people hate the prequels, but I grew up with the prequels. Dude, I first became a Star Wars fan when I was watching those Star Wars marathons on Spike TV. Remember Spike TV? Yeah, neither did I. But yeah, man, my favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. What is your favorite? All right, moving on, man. We're getting a little bit off topic, man. We're talking about Star Wars on a wrestling podcast. All right, moving on. We're gonna be talking about Ricochet. Ricochet was recently, in the news or in the social media realm of professional wrestling, and They grabbed the social media frenzy. He grabbed the social media frenzy by storm because clearly, a lot of fans were upset about. A lot of people were upset about the comments that Ricochet made. If you guys don't know, Ricochet was on Twitter, and Ricochet actually tweeted this out. And if you guys know Ricochet is wild on Twitter. He is really wild on Twitter. He says anything. Like anything that comes to his mind, he will say anything. But Ricochet was recently on Twitter a couple days ago, and he was actually quote tweeting somebody. He was quote tweeting this tweet that stated, "Dude has won 0 world titles since he's arrived. The main reason he jumped ship." So this fan was a little bit salty that he moved from WWE to AEW after his contract was up. Ricochet, being the aha guy that he is, Ricochet went on Twitter and he quote tweeted this tweet, and he was like, "No, the main reason was that the WWE ruined," that is the key word over there, "ruined my love and passion for the sport that I grew up loving. AEW helped me find that love again." And as you know, typical with the internet wrestling community, a wrestler says something on Twitter and it gets passed around like a little note, like it's high school. So this tweet was getting passed around by a lot of people in the wrestling community on the glorious app that is known as X. And a lot of fans were upset. A lot of fans were upset and acting all tribalistic. And again, I hate using the word tribalism because it's such an overused word. Because I guarantee you a couple years ago, nobody used the word tribalism. But now one person used the word tribalism, everybody's going to use the word tribalism. But it's not just a thing in wrestling. Fans are very tribal around sports as well. It's a very real thing that happens. And fans were making this about WWE versus AEW. In this made-up war in their heads, there is no war, ladies and gentlemen. It is a competition, but there is no war. You guys don't even know what that is. But when it comes to Ricochet, what are my thoughts on Ricochet stating that WWE killed his love for wrestling? What are my thoughts? You guys want to know my thoughts? I could care less. Those are my thoughts. Ricochet had his own experience. Ricochet had his own experience in the WWE. You can't change his opinion. You can't change it. Why are we crucifying Ricochet for stating that WWE ruined his love for wrestling? Why are we crucifying Ricochet? Why? I don't know. You tell me. Fans are legitimately angry at Ricochet for stating that WWE ruined his passion for wrestling. Why are fans upset? Why are fans upset? I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. Makes no sense. Ricochet had his own experience. The best time that Ricochet had in the WWE was when he was down in NXT. When he got called up to the main roster, forget about it. Yeah, I believe he became a U.S. champion, but after that, no, I believe he became Intercontinental champion, and I believe he was a U.S. champion. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he was also an NXT North American champion as well. He was also in a great tag team with Aleister Black. Remember that tag team match at TakeOver New York the night before WrestleMania 35 back in 2019? The tag team match between the Roy Raiders versus Aleister Black and Ricochet. It was a fantastic match. I remember it. I remember that match. Ricochet is a fantastic wrestler. But where it went wrong for Ricochet on the WWE main roster was his character work. Vince McMahon did not understand Ricochet. He did not understand Ricochet. Vince McMahon took one look at Ricochet and was like, yeah, this is an indie midget. This is a vanilla midget. Get out of here. He shoved him to the wayside. He wasn't going to push a guy like Ricochet. Triple H takes over. He takes over the creative realm of WWE. And he gives Ricochet more television time. Ricochet hasn't really done anything. He really hasn't. When he was in the WWE, even when Triple H was around, Ricochet was very limited as to what he could be doing in terms of his ability. That is the best way I can describe Ricochet's run in the WWE, at least in the last couple of years. Those are my thoughts. But when it comes to Ricochet, yeah, people may say, oh, but he was given programs with guys like Logan Paul and Brock Lesnar. Yeah, you're right. He was. But again, Ricochet was very limited into what he could be doing in the WWE. When you're in the WWE, it's a one-man show. That's just how it is. Triple H. Now, granted, Triple H is more lenient than Vince McMahon. Triple H is a much better leader than Vince McMahon. He can give he can get ideas by a lot of the talent. He's given a lot of ideas from a lot of the talent, and I would assume that a lot of the talent has input at what they wanted to do. But Ricochet, they looked at Ricochet and they were like, I don't think Ricochet can make it. So what did Ricochet do? He let his contract run out and he left. And look where it got him. He went to AEW. And when he first went to AEW, I was excited. What was the number one thing that fans were excited about when Ricochet first came into the company? There was only one match. And that match was the Will Ospreay versus Ricochet match. Remember that match in New Japan that went viral back in 2016? Yeah, I'm talking about that match. Will Ospreay is basically one of the top guys in AEW. Imagine if he'd wrestled Ricochet in an AEW ring. Oh my God, it'd be crazy. They'd sell out a pay-per-view. But what happened? We got that match weeks later on Dynamite. And that was the biggest problem right there. Right there, I was assuming, oh my God, here we go. They're burning through all of the big matches really quickly. And then before you know it, Ricochet is just going to be another guy on the roster. But what happened? A lot of people were crapping Ricochet for his run so far in AEW. A lot of people were crapping his run so far. And what happened? What exactly happened? Ricochet embraced all of that hatred and bullying that he was receiving from the majority of the AEW fan base. And he completely reinvented himself. And I don't care what anybody says. Ricochet, number one, going to AEW was the best thing to happen to his career. But more importantly, Ricochet's character was finally starting to come to light in AEW. One of the things that Ricochet was missing, especially when he was in the WWE, was his character. I've always said this. What makes him a wrestler great is not your in-ring ability. In-ring ability is important. 100%. It is important. I'm not disputing in-ring ability whatsoever. I'm not. But what's more important is your character progression, your character as a whole, and your connection with the audience. Ricochet got his character down in AEW. And in my opinion, Ricochet is one of the best things in AEW. Oh, but he lost. He lost a couple of matches. Who cares? He's very entertaining to watch. And a lot of people are, for some reason, in my opinion, are still crapping on Ricochet for the work that he's doing currently in AEW, saying that a lot of his promos are terrible. Meanwhile, these are the same people. Think about this. These are the same people that told Ricochet, hey, you need to improve, you need to do more promos, all that stuff. Well, Ricochet is actually doing that now. Ricochet is actually implementing a lot of that criticism that he got back in the WWE. He's implementing that in AEW, and he's actually doing a very good job, in my eyes at least. And a lot of other fans' eyes. Ricochet, as of right now, Ricochet is doing the best work of his career. Period. He is. And fans are we're tweeting at Ricochet stating, oh my God, this guy's talking about WWE again. Oh my God, living rent-free. I don't know, bro, one guy says WWE ruined his passion for wrestling. What is the problem with that? Ricochet is just stating his experience. That's it. He's just stating his experience. Why are fans so up in arms over a comment that Ricochet made, stating that WWE ruined his love for wrestling? We don't know what's going on in the head of Ricochet. If anything, I honestly believe Ricochet just does not care about the opinions of other people, as he should. If I'm Ricochet, I don't care about the other opinions of other people anyway as well. Because I'm living the life. I mean, bro, this guy's married to Samantha Irvin. This guy is living life. You think Ricochet's worried about the criticisms of the fans? He doesn't care. Everybody's like, oh my God, Ricochet should stop tweeting. Ricochet should stop tweeting. No. Why? Why should he stop tweeting? Why? Because he hurt your feelings on Twitter? Get out of here. No. Ricochet is tweeting the way he's tweeting because he wants to get a reaction out of you. And it's smart. It's smart because it plays into his current character. It plays into his current heel role. And right now, in my opinion, Ricochet is doing a fantastic job as a heel. He's doing a great job as a heel. Now where he goes from then on remains to be seen. Do I think he's going to be pushed and he's going to win the AEW World Championship by the end of this year? No, he's not. He's not going to win the AEW World Championship. Maybe in a couple of years. I don't know. Time will tell. But I sure as heck see Ricochet probably either winning the TNT Championship or hell, even the International Championship. I'm going to be honest. If you were to have me compare and contrast both mid-card championships in AEW, that being, or not even both, it's actually three: the International Championship, the Continental Championship, and the TNT Championship. I'd rank it as the Continental Championship goes in number 3, the TNT Championship goes at number 2, and the International Championship at 1. Clearly, the TNT Championship was by far the most important mid-card championship in AEW. But then, once the International Championship came to be and guys like Takeshita and Will Ospreay held it, now Kenny Omega holds it. Clearly, the International Championship is by far the top of the food chain when it comes to the mid-card championships in AEW. Not to mention the Continental Championship. Think about this. There's a Continental Championship and an International Championship in AEW. There's an International Championship and a Continental Championship. That makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, what do you think is going to be happening? I think we're actually going to be getting a unification of both of those titles. Kenny Omega is the International Champion. Kazuchika Okada is the Continental Champion. From what it looks like, we're going to be getting Okada versus Kenny Omega at All In. That's clearly what AEW is building towards. What if we merge it? And don't take my word for it. A lot of other people gave this suggestion as well. What if we unify both the International Championship and the Continental Championship and we make it the AEW Intercontinental Championship? Oh, but that's just copying WWE. No. A bunch of other wrestling organizations have an Intercontinental Championship, okay? New Japan had an Intercontinental Championship at one point. New Japan had an Intercontinental Championship at one point. They had the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. It was held by guys like Shinsuke Nakamura. It was held by guys like Kenny Omega. They had an Intercontinental Championship. They had an Intercontinental Championship. Many other organizations have an Intercontinental Championship. Why can't AEW? That's just a suggestion. But when it comes to Ricochet, dude, he's doing the best work of his career, in my opinion. By far, doing the best work of his career. And he should not listen to any of the fan criticism that he's getting, because clearly the fans are falling into the bait. The fans are falling for it. They're getting worked, as a lot of these old veterans are stating. They are getting worked. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Ricochet. And that was the WrestleHavoc podcast for Sunday, May 4th, 2025. We definitely talked a lot about a lot of stuff on this show. A lot of wrestling talk on the show. We talked about the releases. We talked about Ricochet. We talked about TNA. We talked about SummerSlam, the WWE Draft, AEW, a lot of stuff we talked about right here on this show. And we're going to be back next week talking about all things wrestling right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast, not only on the WrestleHavoc channel, but also on WNN's YouTube channel and WNN's Facebook page. But also an announcement before I get out of here. SummerSlam. Jesus Christ, SummerSlam. SummerSlam's in August. Backlash is going to be taking place this coming, I believe, Saturday, right? I think it's Saturday, May 10th. Yeah, May 10th. Saturday, May 10th. And I'm going to be going live on my YouTube channel, giving my live reactions for WWE Backlash. So be on the lookout for that as well. But nonetheless, man, we talked about a lot of things right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. And we're done for the day. We're done for the night, man. It was a great show. It started off a little rough. But nonetheless, we got the job done. And we talked about all things professional wrestling right here on the #1 podcast, talking about all things professional wrestling. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast, episode 2 from Sunday, May 4th, 2025. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I'm going to look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all next week on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Peace.
Kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah! 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 Kurt Angle! Yeah! Why, Triple H? You son of a tell me why! And Tony Khan! This is also on you!
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it!